Hi, and welcome to the next episode of Our Home with Mayor Walter Sendzik. I'm Walter Sendzik, Mayor of the City of St. Catharines. It's great to have you back joining our show. We had, in the last show, we were talking about things that were going on in our community. We had a great powwow at Montebello Park, which a lot of people came out and celebrated in our community. And today we have two different topics that we're going to be touching on here in our community of St. Catharines, Niagara. We have a discussion that we're going to talk about the Niagara Leadership Summit for Women, which is coming up on October 28th. And as well, we're going to be talking to a business person who has relocated from Chicago to St. Catharines to talk about why he chose to come to our community. So it's going to be an interesting discussion on both sides. And I want to first start by introducing our guests that we have here. We have Madi Fuller and Arienne Good, who is joining us from the Niagara Leadership Summit for Women, which is being put on by Brock University and the YW here in Niagara. I'll get it over here. And Madi is a graduate of Brock University, a recent graduate. You're also involved in the youth forum that we did last year at the City of St. Catharines. And you're working for a St. Catharines-based startup company called Cattle, as well as you're working out of Niagara College at NC Takeoff. Like you're busy, Madi.
Yeah.
You are very busy. And she's also on the planning committee for the Niagara Leadership Summit for Women. Beside Madi, we have Arienne Good, and she is the Community and Public Relations Coordinator for the YWCA Niagara Region. And although she comes from Wingham, where I don't know where Wingham is, but it's somewhere in Ontario, she's only been here for a year and a half, but she has been attracted to our community for all the things that we have to offer. And she's a relatively new transplant to St. Catharines, Niagara, but welcome to the show. Welcome to our community.
Thank you.
All right, so what we want to do is we want to talk about the summit, which is on October 28th at Brock University. It's the fourth annual.
Fourth annual.
Fourth annual, and for the folks who may not know what it's about or why it's important that we have this as part of our community, explain first of all the summit and what people can expect when they learn more about it.
So it is our fourth annual summit, and it's a full day conference where we invite girls, women, male allies. Everyone's welcome to attend the event. It goes from 8 a.m. in the morning to 4 p.m. and it's jam-packed this year. You can expect to have panel discussions, workshops, networking. Really, it's about empowerment for the women in our community who are breaking barriers into leadership.
So that is the theme, right? It's
that
breaking
is.
barriers.
Yeah.
And what is some of the panel discussions, like breaking barriers in what? Is it politics? Is it business? What is it? What are we talking about?
It's actually like all of the above that you just said. So we kind of, when we were thinking of what we wanted the theme to be for this year, like all the suggestions people suggested was like getting over like some sort of problem that women have faced, or getting over something, or conquering something. So that's why we chose overcoming obstacles, because that's mainly what we wanted to empower women and people to do in general at this at the conference. So we have panel discussions on mental health, parenting, male-dominated industries, STEM.
So what STEM stand for? Because folks at home who don't know what STEM
Science,
stands for.
technology, engineering and math. There you go. Yeah.
And that's actually, well, it's interesting because when you talk about breaking down barriers, that is a part of our economy or sectors of our economy where it is male dominated. Mm-hmm. And there's a push to get more young women at a younger age interested in science, engineering, technology, and math, so that they see that as a career opportunity. So I'd say it's really important that you're having that discussion. Mm-hmm. And in terms of areas where we can do a better job as a community, I guess there was a report that was recently issued that had St. Catharines as number 16 out of 25 communities in Canada in terms of best and worst places for women to grow in their career and in life. So we moved from 19 to 16.
Yep.
Tell us a bit more about the report.
So it's good that we improved and increased, but one area, I'm actually just going to read it just so I get it word for word, but one area that stood out to me was, and what we'll be focusing on at the conference, is the leadership opportunities. So St. Catharines, Niagara ranked near the bottom of the list when it came to access to leadership positions. So women only make up 21% of the holding elected office in the region, and then women fare better outside of politics, though, so they hold 35% of management positions. I know we've been kind of saying, like, where are they accounting this for? I personally think possibly Brock and other big institutions that we have in the region that may be lacking in senior management positions held by women. But that's one particular thing that we will be focusing on at the conference, is kind of breaking down those barriers of access to leadership positions. And I'm actually speaking, doing a little power talk at the end all about representation in Niagara. So we're going to be talking about primarily supporting and encouraging women or people that would or people that are lowly represented in our community to actually run in the upcoming election. So we get more representation, because the more people that run, or the more women that will run, the more people we'll see in office. So
what do you think one of the barriers are to having more women running for political office? What do you see as a barrier?
I would say a lot of it is education. A lot of women aren't educated on the matters at hand, and that's one of the things that the Leadership Summit is hoping to bring to the forefront, is the fact that we do have a panel discussion near the beginning on politics, and then near the end we have Madi doing one, and we also have Ruth hosting a panel on getting women involved, just to not necessarily even run, but know what the issues are so that they can actually vote appropriately. So I would say one of the biggest things is education.
And I think that's something that we need to focus on. We have an election coming up in 2018 municipally, and it would be great to see a higher representation of women sitting around council chambers across Niagara and in leadership positions at the elected level. And I say that because I think it brings a much more balanced discussion to what you just pointed out in terms of the issues that are facing our community. So we have issues of affordable housing, we have issues of poverty and mental health, and a lot of different areas that are growing in terms of the concern. And having that diverse voice at the table, I think, will create better outcomes for policy. And we're not really seeing that today, and I'm hoping that in 2018, through your efforts, there will be more women on the ballot so that we can have those discussions moving forward, and looking forward to that. So folks out there, if you're thinking about getting involved, the municipal election is only a year away, actually, as of this month. So if you're interested, you gotta get involved and learn about the process. And I think that's the starting point for a lot of folks. What is the process to get elected? So the YW, Arienne, why is the YW? Why is this summit important for the YW?
So the YW is actually coming into our 90th year within the region. And our overall mandate is to empower women and girls and get them active in the community and feeling confident to show their own leadership, whatever that may be. So the summit is one of the best ways to do that, is to be able to gather people and have women speakers that are the people that are breaking barriers within our community, speaking to the rest and trying to get them involved and have them educated on what they're doing and how they can help. And then another reason why is the day before we're actually having our Power of Being a Girl conference, and that's for grade 10 girls. And its theme is also breaking barriers, and it kind of aligns pretty well with the Leadership Summit. And the keynote speaker actually will be Ashley Collingwell, who is the keynote speaker for our Leadership Summit as well. Okay,
so talk a bit about Ashley as the keynote. What message is she going to be bringing to the summit?
So if people don't know who Ashley is, she was Miss Universe 2015. She's been a human rights activist. She has been a well-known speaker within Canada. And she really speaks a lot to Indigenous issues. And she has spent a lot of time working with girls and women just to be able to help them come into their own and feel like they have a voice. Mm-hmm. Right when she got her Miss Universe Canada 2015, she immediately started talking about politics and Indigenous issues and use that platform to bring awareness to those issues. And I think that that's really important. That's one of the reasons why we really wanted her here.
And so she'll be speaking at both the day before. Yeah. Talk a bit about that again, because I know that's always been a sort of an add-on to the summit, is the day before, and it's called again.
Power Being Girl Conference.
Power of Being a Girl Conference. And is that in association with high school students or?
Yeah. So it is for grade 10 girls throughout the region. Actually, they are, it's provided to the guidance counselors and principals, and they make the selection of young girls that they feel should be attending the conference. And it just gathers them so that they can have that safe space where they can have the discussions of their confidence levels and their leaderships and the struggles that they're facing. And we take them through a few different guest speakers and workshops that they can feel a little more comfortable being in the community and make those relationships with other girls within the region.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So 4 years. What have you seen over the past 4 years that you can point to the summit and say we've made a difference?
Well, even between last year and this coming year, I find a much more diverse array of topics as well, because we have a set of workshops. So there's decolonizing language. We're talking about racism. We're talking about like just race in general. And we have a lot more of diverse women coming out as well to speak about these issues. And I feel that this summit can be seen as maybe like a one lens thing, and that's why we did want to call it Breaking Barriers, because women experience a lot of different barriers. For example, like at YWCA, we see women that have children and they are much more prone to be in poverty or don't have a home or having to face domestic violence. So all over the scope, especially in Niagara, like people are coming from very different walks of life. So it's nice to have people's lived experiences being showcased here instead of just not a narrow view, but over the past couple of years, it has been the same people getting involved and the same people speaking. And it's not that they don't bring amazing knowledge, but it's nice to see some new faces and some new ideas brought to the conference.
Okay, so quick wrap up on how to get more information. Where do people have to go to check more about the summit?
Well, we are on Facebook and Twitter at Niagara LSW, and you can also go on to our Leadership Summit, Niagara.lsw.ca.
Okay, and then for after the summit, to keep in touch, is the website going to be continuously updated?
The website does stay updated and definitely on our Facebook and Twitter accounts. And then also it would then align to the YWCA's Facebook and Twitter accounts as well. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you both for being on the show. And I think the message that you bring is a very important one to the community. The summit is only a point in time. And I really want to emphasize that to the people viewing at home, is the summit is a point in time and where there's a lot of discussion, but it's what happens after the summit as well. So hopefully what we'll be seeing is more people, more women participating in the political field, but also we'll be celebrating more of the leadership of women in our community, because I think there are, although the report is accurate in terms of that came out where we're ranking, there are a lot of women who are in leadership positions in our community that we need to be more aware of and bring them into the spotlight and also a lot of the discussions that we're having. So good luck on the summit, and we look forward to the outcomes from the summit and seeing the growth of these ideas take root in our community. So Madi and Arienne, thank you very much for being on our show, and we look forward to seeing you at Summit.
Thanks.
We'll be right back with Bob Lytle from Rel8ted.to, a new business here in our community. We'll be talking about the attraction of St. Catharines in bringing new business. Hi, and welcome back to our home with Mayor Sendzik. And I hope you really enjoyed the first part of this show where we talked about the Niagara Leadership for Women Summit. And now we're going to go from that to talking about business in our community. And it's great to see the transition that's taking place here in St. Catharines, where we've got a lot of startup businesses that are ready to take off. We've got our established businesses that are growing by leaps and bounds. We're really at a very interesting time here in the economy of our community. And I say interesting because globally there's a lot of shifts taking place, and it seems that now St. Catharines has that momentum. We're there, and we're only going to continue to grow through businesses like Bob Lytle, who's joining me today. And Bob's business is operating out of Innovate Niagara in downtown St. Catharines, and his business is called Rel8ted.to, and it works with public data. So there's going to be a lot of terms that we're going to use that we're going to be explaining through this part of the show, but using public data to create a unique picture of commercial customers for banks, insurers, researchers who need to understand their market, grow profits through big data and predictive analytics. So really, that's an interesting description of what your company is, Bob. And if you were to simplify it, if you were jumping into an elevator and you had to make a pitch to someone quickly about what do you do, sure. give us a 30-second commercial.
So thanks, Walter. The internet has led to the explosion of public information. Sometimes government puts it out. We'll call that open data. Sometimes individuals create this information. And what we've found is a way to gather that information and put it to great use to help a bank make a better loan to a small business or an insurance company to understand the risk of a particular property. So if the old world of data was working with proprietary closed databases, we took the opposite approach, work with open information that you or I or anyone could find, and we apply, the term is artificial intelligence, if you wish, or analytics, to help companies understand what's going on in the business community.
And you're often referred to as a citizen data scientist, which is interesting. I haven't really heard that term before, but it points to the future of where this type of business is going. So
sure.
Citizen data scientist.
So it was coined by IBM probably 5 or 6 years ago, but with the explosion of information coming right out of the government, St. Catharines releases a lot of information in the public domain. Non-private information,
well,
so it's truly
Yep.
it's truly public information,
Yep.
and we're talking about what kind of businesses, or where are the fire hydrants, or where are the parks, or city finances. Very
Yep.
important. With the explosion of that information, citizens now, for the first time, are able to get a picture of government and what's really happening, and frankly, to hold government accountable, but also to make business opportunity out of that. So they use the term citizen data scientist. If a data scientist is maybe an egghead or maybe just an exploratory person who wants to look at information, as a private citizen, I can go and learn about the world around me. In our case, we chose to create a company on it, but anybody is free to go and use data from the Niagara Open Data Portal, as an example, to learn more about the community. Or the YWCA is free to use that to understand the social impact of some of their programs. It's all there ready for the taking.
And so I want to go to the business side of it, because you're right, someone can just download the data and start looking at it and trying to figure it out. Sure. What is it that you do that makes it a viable business opportunity?
So it goes to the experience that I was fortunate to have working for the TransUnion Credit Bureau, which is what brought me to Canada in the first place. We were experts, and still are experts, at building models and scores, credit scores, or other things that help a bank understand how to grant a mortgage, how to grant a business loan. What we do with that data is apply the same sort of technology and analytics on top of a brand new sort of information. So the best example I could give is today, if you wanted to start a business, maybe you wanted to start a window washing business as an individual, you would go to the bank and you would say, well, I'd like to get a loan. And the bank may ask you for information about your business and where are you located and all of these different bits, which are very, very valuable. For a bank to understand, well, guess what? I'm opening this out of my garage, right? I've just started. Maybe I've left my business. Maybe I've been laid off, and I say I'm looking to do something myself. So what kind of background do I have that I could take to a banker to say, please give me a loan so I can buy window washing equipment? Probably not enough in many cases, and maybe I don't get that loan. So what we try to do is use the public picture of that person and the business environment to say, you know what? Hey, bank, there's a different way of looking at that person. That individual has the kind of history that could make them a successful business. Why don't you work with them? Credit unions are great for this. Give them a startup loan and let them get going. So institutions, whether they're banks or insurance companies or even the government, are starved for information about the fastest growing segment of our economy, which is the small and micro business,
Right.
the one-person shop, the entrepreneur. If the entrepreneur can't get the financing to get started, many times they don't start their business. And that's one of the things we try to address with this data.
So, and what I personally find fascinating about your company is the data mining that you do, and through the explosion of the Internet of Things, we have all this information that's swirling around us. You could set up shop anywhere in the world.
Sure.
You're not from St. Catharines. You're in a come from away, as we call them. Came from Chicago. You looked at a community, and explain why you're here. Like, I think that's a message that folks at home need to hear is, why did someone from Chicago decide that St. Catharines is a place to move your family and start a very important business?
So I will say that it's one of the most common questions I'm asked, and typically I'm asked that by someone from Canada who can't believe it. Not just curious, but why would you ever think of? And I'll tell you why directly. So I was invited to Canada as part of the corporation for TransUnion, so they have a shop in Burlington. We looked around as a family and said, where do we want to live? And who could pick a better place to live than Niagara, right? So we moved to Beamsville. That's where we moved. And got a chance to get a taste of what St. Catharines specifically is about, because it's kind of the hub in the center. For this area, and really enjoyed it. Thought, wow, this is really great. We, on our first visit here to St. Catharines, heard about a school, Ridley College, and applied for a scholarship, and we're fortunate to get our kids into the program. So now all of a sudden we've got a tie directly to the area. And really fell in love with the Niagara region in St. Catharines and the vibe that St. Catharines had. So at the time, understanding in 2014, 2015, the downtown was really revitalizing, and so you had a very different feel. So that attracted us to this area. When I decided to leave the credit bureau to start my own business, which I always knew I wanted to do, I'll be honest, my first intent was to move back to Chicago. Kids were going to finish the year in school, and then we moved back to Chicago, start the business. That's where my network was. I went to volunteer at Innovate Niagara because I had some free time, and I said, Jeff Chasebro is a great CEO of that organization. Jeff, I'm a former CIO of a bigger company. I've got some free time. Who can I help out? We started talking about it and hooked me up with the iHub, Dean O'Mealy, and the DSBN organization there. And they're busy helping businesses get started in the educational area. I taught a couple of computer classes at the end of 2015. And thought, this is really neat. I was sitting over lunch with Jeff at Innovate and talking with him about my business idea. And he says, well, you ever thought of starting this business in Canada? So, what do you mean? I'm not a citizen. I mean, how can I do that? I'm on a work permit, but I'm going back to Chicago. He says, well, listen, we are one of 20 places in Canada and Ontario that are allowed to find clever businesses and promote them in the innovative sector, and we will work with you and Citizen and Immigration Canada to help you get permanent residency. We need you to make a commitment to place roots in the area, hire people from the local community, work with the university, and if you're interested in that, Bob, let me know. Paid a visit to Brock University. So all these pieces come together. We love the area. Sorry for the long story. We love the area. Loved the school the kids were at. Met some great folks. Loved the downtown vibe. And were introduced to Brock University that had just started what? The Center for Business Analytics. Some great professors there saw this vision of artificial intelligence 10 years ago, right? And the message I would say to you is what I hear from Canadians a lot are second, right? Well, we'll work well, but we're probably going to achieve less. You need to understand that in North America, Brock University was one of the first places to put their hat in the ring and say, we're going to launch business analytics. They're the first program in Canada that got approved by the Faculty Senate to launch a Center for Analytics. And they're competing against what? Queens and Rutland, and you go across the country, and it's right here in Brock. And so I said, holy, this is where I want to go. I will tell you this, not short on words, so I'll apologize once more. But I visited Kitchener-Waterloo, visited a great place in downtown Toronto called Mars, and this is where all these people do startups and everything else. We still chose to go to St. Catharines because of what the area meant to us and our family, and frankly the university, which was the tipping point for me. We get all our staff from the university program at this
And that's
point.
what I wanted to quit. And I hope a lot of folks at home listen to that story, because it's how you create the conditions for attracting business.
Right.
And it's not just one aspect of it. It's not just an academia, or it's not just a downtown investment or creating an innovation hub. All those parts have to come together
Right.
in order to successfully attract and launch a business. So you are a real life example of all the effort that's been put into creating the conditions that I now think are taking our economy in a great direction. So quickly, just a couple other points. You now have employees, so they're coming from Brock. What's the future? Where do you want to be? So quickly, we got about a minute left. Where do you want to be 5 years from now?
5 years from now, I envision that we will have an opportunity to provide major analytics service across all of North America. We are now getting our first U.S. clients after having started in the Canadian market. I'm developing partnerships with some folks across the border. I envision that we will continue to use Brock as one of our main pipelines for trained academic researchers, and I believe that we will continue to start to give people who maybe moved to Toronto because of opportunity, a real live opportunity, great paying jobs in modern technology right here where they grew up as kids.
Well, Bob, on behalf of our community, I want to say thank you for choosing St. Catharines, Niagara to call home. I want to wish you all the best in your endeavors as an entrepreneur. I know your company is going to be successful, and I look forward to 5 years from now looking back and seeing the growth of your company, because you will be that example of where we are and where we're going. And it's going to be great to follow all your achievements. So folks, there's a lot going on in business. There's a lot going on in our community, from leadership summits for women to successful entrepreneurs now calling St. Catharines home. So it's a great time to be in our community, and we're celebrating here on our show all the great things that make St. Catharines an amazing place to call home. So I encourage you to get out and learn all about the great things that are happening, and talk to all your folks and share it online. Share it through the hashtag OurHomeSTC, the photos that you see, the images that you take, and continue to promote our community to the world. So Bob, thanks for being on the show. Until next time, just enjoy all of the things that make life amazing. Take care.